Welcome back to the All Things Real Estate podcast, where we talk about what's really happening in the housing market and how you can make smart moves no matter the season. I'm going to be your host today. My name's Laci LeBlanc, and we're talking about something that surprises a lot of people: why winter might actually be the best time to list and sell your home, even right here in Ohio. To help me unpack this conversation, I'm joined by my friend and my colleague, Priscilla McNamee, ROOST Director of Sales. She knows the market inside and out. Priscilla, welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I think you're probably pretty excited to talk about this one. It comes up every year. We talk about it internally. Sellers are always surprised by what we see here. So let's just start with the big myth. Everybody thinks that you should wait for spring to sell your house. Why do people think that, and why are they maybe wrong?
This is one of my favorite subjects. Well, I think what's most important is in the wintertime and during the holidays, um, you have less competition. So, as a seller, you are on the market with far fewer listings. And the great thing about that is that when you have your buyers out there in the marketplace, they have way less to choose from. And then on the flip side, when you talk about buyers, you have way more serious buyers in the marketplace as well, which is so nice. So you have less lookers. So in the springtime, I feel like people are browsing, they're looking, you have a lot of buyers, a bigger pool of buyers where you would have maybe 15, 20 showings. There's a lot of times right now, I'll have one showing, one offer. It's just very common. So that makes it so nice.
So what I'm hearing is that, first of all, when you decide to sell your home or when you need to move, that's not necessarily, the best time in the market or the time that everybody thinks, right? Things happen in your life and you need to move houses in the winter all the time. People need to do that all the time, right? So who is actually out shopping for houses in December and January and February?
I would say like it's interesting because when I look at my pool of sellers and my pool of buyers, I have all sorts of buyers and sellers right now. I will tell you, selling, unfortunately, this is sad. A lot of it is family members that have passed away. So estates. And buying those properties, I have investors, first time home buyers, families that are sizing up and sizing down. So there again, you've got all sorts walks of life, buying those properties. Um, Sorry, I'm sitting here completely. There again, you are the queen of editing. Thank God.
Well, I think you made a really good point, right? It sounds like there are fewer showings, but more meaningful ones in the wintertime, that there are fewer looky-loos in the wintertime, and that you probably rather have the few more serious buyers in, January than the 20 plus browsers in April or May. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. So they're more serious. They're going to get down to business. And another really great thing for the buyers is that during the winter time, I feel like you get to see the houses in their absolute worst, most distressful situations. So like you get to see, okay, how are these homes handling these sub-zero temperatures? I mean, let's be real. Or like today here in Ohio, I mean, it's pouring down rain right now. So in December, so people get to see how is this house going to feel? Like how is it heating? How is it, how do the windows feel? Where a lot of people, I feel like they can hide that stuff during the summertime.
I had not thought about that at all because, we live in a 100-year-old house. And if you walk into my bedroom, like one of the windows is fine, but there's one that was older. It's an odd size, so it wasn't replaced at the same time as the rest. And if you walk by it and the blinds are open, you can feel the draft that comes in because we still need to replace that window. That's a really good point. I mean, you talked about like there's less inventory, so there's less to dig through, right? There are fewer houses to kind of search through for a buyer. But what does the winter housing supply actually look like, especially in Ohio?
I would say our listing inventory is definitely, it's most certainly lower. I do feel like the prices are more competitive, which is there again, great for buyers. I do feel like sellers are more willing to negotiate. They're paying closing costs, they're coming off their price, they're negotiating repairs. It's just overall a better market for consumers, for buyers.
Yeah, I think that in most of the markets, the numbers, as far as the real kind of hard numbers, Columbus, Springfield, Dayton, Troy, smaller towns, active listings drop, but from between 25 to 40% once you hit November. But the number of buyers, serious buyers, doesn't necessarily change, like you had mentioned. That means, like you've been saying, if your house is on the market, then it stands out from the crowd naturally, especially if you're doing all the things that, go back and listen to some of these other podcasts that you've been a guest on, Priscilla, and you've given everybody step by step kind of what they need to focus on to present their home well. So I think that that naturally, improves even more how your house looks versus other houses on the market. So competing with fewer sellers, but still reaching the same buyer pool. And that's an imbalance, but it's a good one for a well-priced, well-maintained home. I think it's just supply and demand. Um, so what about like curb appeal? You talked a little bit about presentation in cold weather. I'm thinking like, oh, do people decorate for Christmas when they're trying to sell a house? Like it's got me thinking now, what's different about the presentation of a house that you're looking at in the dead of winter? Because most people think their house looks the best and feels the best in the spring and summer. But how do you make a house more appealing in this season?
I feel like it actually is warm and cozy. So when I have clients that are decorating for the holidays, they have everything warm and cozy. If they have a fireplace, they have the fireplace going. A lot of times they'll be baking cookies. They just have things where it's so warm and inviting that it does feel like home. And it is so much different than having the air conditioning blasting at 68 during the summertime. It's just a completely different feel. And honestly, even like a fresh blanket of snow on the ground, it just gives you a completely different feel during the winter time. It truly, really does. And I know some people have a different perception of winter. They're like, oh my gosh, my house isn't going to show the same, but it truly is not the case.
Yeah, so it's about making things cozy. And of course, if there's snow, you want to make sure you're clearing the driveway and the walkways and but it's darker outside, so you have an opportunity to turn on all your like cozy lighting, I feel like. A lot of times you tell people to when you're selling a house, right, to step away from it emotionally. But I feel like in this season, it is more of an emotional season to sell your home, right? The emotions of the season maybe factor into it a little more than they would in the spring and summer. Is that the case?
I do believe that because I can't even tell you, like right now, how many people are so excited because they get to spend their last Christmas in their home. So they'll be moving after the holidays. And
And
that's
I
just
think
something
people are
that's
thinking
special.
about their first Christmas, right, in their new home when they're coming through
Exactly.
as a buyer. Yeah, I can think about we bought our house kind of earlier in the year, but we've talked about this on the podcast before. It belonged to my grandfather. So when he passed away, it was actually already decorated for Christmas. So we got to come into the kind of Christmas decor and take it all down for the last time. And it was a very emotional experience. I think with some of the estates and things like that, it can be. But it is interesting that this is a time where you might push a little bit of be the CEO of your your home selling experience to the side in favor of a little bit more of an emotional connection with prospective buyers.
And I feel like you have to guide sellers as well. I mean, it's the same. We use our home enhancement checklist. We're still helping them prepare to get their house ready for sale. I mean, sometimes they still have too much stuff. We want them to present the house the best that they can. And that doesn't mean that they can't decorate for the holidays, of course. So, I mean, I've had people this month that said, should I put a Christmas tree up? I'm like, absolutely put your Christmas tree up. I don't want you to halt the holidays just because you have to make a move right now. And I've had people who have honestly, they didn't expect to buy a house this month. It just happened to be that a property came on the market and they've been looking for over a year. So it's one of those things that just happens, it just happens.
Yeah, and sometimes it happens more quickly in this season. You've mentioned before that winter sales often close faster. Why do you think that is?
I do feel like buyers are so much more serious. And what I'm noticing right now is I'm seeing a lot of buyers do full pre approvals, which is really, really nice because what they're doing, instead of doing like a pre qualification, they're actually going to their lender and getting a complete approval. So, like, I have a VA loan right now that literally, Bill Riley, he has it ready to close in less than 3 weeks, which is unheard of. It's I mean, we're ready to close like 3 weeks ahead of time.
Well, that's a good point. The professionals that you have to use for the process, so like the lenders, the inspectors, the appraisals, the title companies, they may have kind of a lighter schedule during this time of year, but they also have a lighter workload. So a lot of times those things move more quickly as well.
You nailed it. The appraisers have such a much lighter schedule this time of year. So their turnaround time is so much easier. And like you said, same with inspectors. They're, during the summer and spring, I'm not even kidding. I mean, there's times it'll take me a week just to get an inspector in a property. So I have to extend all those deadlines out where right now I can get them in much quicker.
Which is probably a blessing because it's relocation season, which is where a lot of these very serious buyers probably come from. And it's a real driver of the activity this time of year. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Very much so. You've got relocation, people who are transferring. Another thing, which is another great point to make, I don't want to forget, but we also have investors who will want to get a last minute purchase in by the end of the year for a tax write off.
Yeah, that's another point that I think that, and investors are always on the market, right? There are seasons to investing. You can listen to the Landlord Profitability Playbook podcast about that. But investors are always on the lookout. And, when the right property comes along, it doesn't matter if it's, close to Christmas or the beginning of the year, they're looking for that right property. But yeah, for tax purposes, absolutely an advantage for them. And back to relocation, a lot of major companies in Ohio specifically and across the Midwest are doing hiring and transfers and finalizing those offers between November and February. And there isn't a lot of time for folks. So, they've got to move quickly. A lot of times they're shopping from a whole other city. Sometimes they buy the property sight unseen.
Unseen.
And so like weather doesn't really matter. What are the keys to making your home, present well online for people who might be buying from out of state?
I think what's so important, which I really push with all of my sellers, is their online presentation has to be above par. I mean, they have to have professional photos, which I provide, all of that, all of the floor plan where the photographer goes in there and scans all of that, where it looks like a blueprint, where people can actually see the exact layout of the property. People who are out of state, it's so hard to be able to tell how a layout is. And I'm telling you, when you're uprooting your entire family, and let's say one of the spouses are already here working, and then you've got the other spouse with the children left behind, I mean, they're going through so much turmoil. One of them is back home trying to get the household packed up, get everything situated, get the kids together. I mean, it is so much stress.
And get them all here and settled in and, ready to go back to school
Yeah,
in
yeah,
January or whatever the
yeah.
case may be. Yeah, those are really great examples. Um, you know, do you have another kind of real world story about a great winter sale that you've been a part of?
Well, I had one where I had a medical student that was coming here for her residency from Seattle in the dead of winter. We had literally a 6 week time window to find her a house, and it was virtual. I had to pick the house for her. I mean, literally. So she did not step foot here. What I did was I utilized FaceTime, but I also had to utilize videos for her because I wasn't always able to get her on FaceTime because of her schedule. I mean, she works a very demanding schedule. I mean, a lot of times she works 36-hour shifts sometimes. So I found her a condo in Hilliard ultimately. I literally went from, I'm talking every nook and cranny. I described the place perfectly for her, and she ended up buying it. Absolutely loved it. When she got here, she was so excited. She said, "You could not have described this place any better for me." The inspector was amazing. He described it perfectly. Again, we negotiated repairs for her. She got here with her little dog. She ended up spending 3 years here at OSU. And then she actually just recently sold it, made about $60,000 on it, and then carried on to South Carolina.
Where it's much warmer.
Yes,
As I sit in my office in North Carolina and you sit in Ohio, right? No, I think that really illustrates how having an agent that you can trust to work with is so, so important. Somebody who knows the market, who is willing to go that extra mile for you, but also you mentioned repairs and things. Having your home be move-in ready or looking for a home if you're a buyer that is completely move-in ready has to be kind of one of the major keys to buying and selling in the winter time, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this particular condo just fit her lifestyle. And that was something that I always ask my clients, what's most important to you? What do you do in your spare time? Like this young lady, she didn't have a lot of spare time. So what spare time she did have, it was important to me to know what is important to her. So
Not cleaning probably a 3,500 square foot house to top the
absolutely.
list. Not dusting 17 rooms that you never use was probably right at the top of her list if I had to
Exactly.
guess.
Exactly.
Um, well, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me, sitting here, but we've had this conversation multiple times, right, across over years and in the Roost office. We're in the industry, so we talk about it all day, every day. But if I were a homeowner that had listened to this and I'm still sitting across from you and I'm thinking, maybe I should just wait until April though. That gives me more time and I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z and I really think that having more lookers is going to be better. I'm going to get a better price for my property. What would you say to that person?
Honestly, I would tell them that, and I have a situation like this right now. I have a client who is going gun ho on a rehab, and he just asked me, he said, should I wait until after Christmas, the new year, to put the house on the market? And I flat told him, absolutely not. Just put it on the market. With all of the work that he's doing, he's going to make this place look so amazing. He's literally checking off every box. So he's going to appeal to the masses. It's a property that's not a fixer-upper. It's not going to be difficult to sell. He's going to take my advice on the pricing. We're going to be aggressive with marketing, put it on the market, because guess what? He is going to be one of the only listings in that area in this price range. He will sell it. He will get it under contract. So I tell people, I mean, run with it, because if you wait, you might be one of 10 listings.
Yeah, that's a lot more competition. And I think, having an agent again, who knows the neighborhood, who has spent several seasons and several cycles in this market is going to be really key because you just might be surprised what your home could sell for right now, right? And a lot of that is dependent upon the things that you mentioned, which is the price point, right? The move-in ready status, the finishes that appeal to the masses, those kinds of things that really a seasoned agent is going to be able to advise you on. So I think that, that's a really important point here too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just really going the extra mile, getting your house ready, pricing it right. The market is definitely shifting gears a little bit. I just got back from a conference out in Las Vegas, listening to Brian Buffini give his bold predictions for 2026. And he said that we are literally going to go back to a 2019 market. Now, that doesn't mean we're going back to 2019 prices. We're going back to working like we worked in 2019, which means longer days on the market. You have to have the house prepared. You have to have the house priced right. You're going to have price, you're probably going to have price reductions. You might have to have an open house. You're going to have to work your listing. So things are going to be a little bit different come 2026. We're not going to see like major price, I'm sorry, interest rate drops. We're hoping that the rates will go down into the sixes, but we're not going to be seeing like these major rate drops. So it's going to be a little bit of a tougher market, but it's going to be fine. The market's going to be fine. We're just going to go back to normal real estate.
Yeah, so everything that we talk about is based in strategy, right? So in this case, it's not about rushing to get your house on the market right now. It's about if now is the time when you need to sell your home, being strategic about it, making sure that you do all the things you need to do, and acknowledging that it's not a bad season to sell your home.
Absolutely.
I think that
And
one of the things that you've mentioned before is that the quiet season is when the best deals tend to happen.
I agree. I agree with you completely. And I think that's a major misconception when people say, I'm not going to sell my house during the winter or during the holidays, because I've seen some people get some of the very best deals, both on the selling side and the buying side.
Yeah, well, hopefully we've challenged some of that more traditional thinking as we tend to do here at Roost, but I appreciate you breaking it down with me today, Priscilla. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And if you're listening and thinking about making a move, now is the time to talk to your local Roost real estate agent. You can visit sellwithroost.com to connect with a professional like Priscilla in your area and find out what your home could be worth right now while everyone else is still waiting for spring. Until next time, I'm Laci LeBlanc, and this has been the All Things Real Estate Podcast.